Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us out here in Edmonton, Canada. That's right. It is the third stop of the FWS World Series 2018. I'm Ryan Meyer, joined by Daryl Now. This is the first Saturday of competition out here in Canada, and we are about to get ready to present to you guys the semifinals for the UCI BMX Freestyle Flatland men's semifinal.
Well, Ryan, if that's a tongue twister to say, wait till you witness the riding that is about to go down. It's difficult to call the tricks in 2018, but to witness the riding firsthand, it's going to be one heck of a show. We're so glad that you tuned in, and the excitement is building here in our park.
As you see these beautiful drone shots, we have moved locations down to Louise McKinney Riverfront Park in Edmonton's downtown core. We were previously in a much larger but further subtracted park, Harlech Park, actually just outside of the Edmonton Center. Now we are down here in all the action, and you see the stands are packed up. We are very happy that the city of Edmonton, as well as the province of Alberta and Explore Edmonton, have welcomed us with open arms to have the FWS World Series back here for a third consecutive year. We're about to get ready to see the top Flatland athletes in BMX battle it out to test their luck and see who is going to make it through to the finals tomorrow. If you guys want to stay tuned on all the social media channels, you see the box in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Check us out on Facebook. If you're not already liking us there, go like us. You're able to see all the live content and replay them for yourself. As well, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to check us out, hashtag your posts, FWS Edmonton and FWS World Series. Stay involved with all the action. We'll get back to you. If you guys say, for instance, you want to let us know what you feel about judging, something else about a favorite rider of yours, tag us in the post. My hashtag is at Late Night Rai, and Daryl's is at Daryl Now. We started off in Hiroshima at the start of April this year, moved over to Montpellier, France, and now we are across the Atlantic in Edmonton, Canada. We're then going to have two more parts to the series, one in Budapest, and then following in November, the first weekend of November, Chengdu, China. But that is going to be a big stop. I'm going to tell you why. For the BMX, this is the month, November 2018 is when the counting of the points is going to start tallying for the Olympics. We'll get more into that. It is a very complex story to tell you how the whole entire allocation is going to go for each nation and their riders, but it's all about the Flatland right now. While we talk about the athletes later, Daryl, walk us through some of the judges.
Well, you can see we have three legendary Flatlanders. These are grandmasters of the sport. We have from Germany, Alexei Desselnu, who's a pioneer not only of flatland riding, but also influencing some street in there. We have the legend, 5 times world champion, just came back a few years ago from retirement, Marty Kopa. And then from Japan, the owner of Motel Bikes, Vittorio Tanaka. So we've got 3 different styles out there, but they are going to be looking through their 6 eyeballs at all the details that we want the riders to be in their top format and prime out there. So you can see the 3 judges up there.
And as well, we talk about parks a lot of the time after we talk about judges, criteria, how are we able to score different lines, but this is Flatland. You have a flat surface. It's just a big round square, basically an even playing field for all the athletes. Just have to make sure that it doesn't rain, and with weather like this right now, that's not on our minds.
Yeah, let's break down the format of which our riders. We had our qualifiers, and we have the top 16 riders who made it through. They're actually going to get one run of 3 minutes on the course, and then they'll get their score afterwards. So you break it down, 16 riders, we've got the run 3 minutes, and afterwards they'll get the score, and what we're doing is taking our top 8 that will advance to the semifinal. So if you look at that, just one score, it's, one score, one run, very different than BMX Park, where you might have 2 runs out there, and you're really gonna have to utilize the entire time on the clock.
And as well as something to note is that you have that 4-minute break between heats. This is so that the judges are able to tally up their scores and make sure that they're all on the same mindset as they move forth. This is something very critical with the criteria.
Yeah, Ryan, that mindset is important. The judges want to see difficulty, originality and style, the variety of tricks, consistency, and control. What they're also looking for and taking note is things that have never been done before. These guys are grandmasters of the sport. They've been dedicated their entire life to it. So if a rider's going to push or progress their riding, they want to see it. They want to know it. They also want to see riders not put their foot down or have any mess-ups within that allotted time. They're looking for perfection. If a rider could achieve that during that 3 minutes, and also tweak their body position in awesome style.
Two riders who are dominating the scene. Let's take a recap look at some of the highlights from these riders out in Hiroshima, Japan. This is none other than Alex Jumelon.
This is Alex Jumelon, currently sitting second overall in our points race. He has 17,200 points. We're taking a look right here at Vicky Gomez, who is currently sitting in third overall. In Hiroshima, he got a well-deserved second place. Vicky is a legend of the sport. He's been committed his entire life. You can see the crowd going nuts right there as he put his leg up on top of the head tube. But if you're going to mention Flatland in 2018, you know this name, Matthias Dandois, because not only did he get first place at Hiroshima, which is well-deserved, but he also stomped a huge win in Montpellier. But let's look right here as he winds up crossing his legs and just throwing up the double single fingers for first place right there. Matthias, always the showman, and you can see that energy transferring to the crowd. But if we're going to wind up moving the clock ahead to stop number 2 of 5, this is Montpellier, where we wound up having our second stop, and it's one of the highlights for all of BMX Flatland out there. So we're taking a look again. Here is Alex Jumelon. Not only does he live in Montpellier, but he's also been really pushing and promoting the sport throughout the years, and you can see the crowd who just has his support as he focuses on his front wheel, putting both feet on the pegs, getting clean around, and jumping right to pedals. Here's a look at Matthias Dandois. Picture perfect pose right there where he's balancing in that front wheel. You can see he winds up pumping right there, back tire not touching down at all on the deck. Matthias is psyched, and as he progressed and his time progressed, he turned up the heat, turned up the speed, and turned up the velocity of the spin right there. You see him getting completely sideways with his bike, his wheel not hitting the ground at all, showing you why he was awarded that 10,000 points for first place, holding up the trophy. The Red Bull rider super psyched right there. And then we had Alex Jumelon in second, and I believe Moto Sasaki in third. So that was a little bit of a highlight of our top Flatland riders from our first 2 stops. We had our qualifier yesterday. One thing to note, that BMX Flatland has been growing larger than ever. These are a look at our top 8 riders that are going to be riding, our first 8 riders. So this is in reverse ranking order from yesterday. Dan Hennig, Joel Bondu, Alberto Moya, Tyler Gillard, Jose Gomez, Dustin Alt, Kevin Nikolsky, Takaro Aikida are going to be your top 8. And then we have Takamoto Izaki Hindonori, Alex Jumelon, Rafael Shiki, Moto Sasaki, Benjamin Hudson, Jean-William Privot, and Matthias Dandois, who is your number 1 qualifier.
So a huge packed list of the top Flatland athletes in BMX. They're out here in Edmonton, ready to battle it out as we get things going. This is the German Dan Hennig.
Very cool to see Dan Hennig out here. In 2016, he put a lot of videos out online, had a lot of buzz going. He actually stepped out a little bit from the limelight, and it's so great seeing Dan Hennig, his name pop up, not only at a feast contest, but also qualifying here for our semifinal. So as we said, the format's going to be 1 run apiece. 3 minutes are on the clock. 16 riders. We are taking our top 8. The stage is set. We have our MC Quet, who is an integral part of the event. Our DJ is bumping the tunes, and the crowd is locked and loaded for Dan Hennig.
This is one of my favorite events of the FIS World Series. The Flatland has really grown on me in the last couple years. an absolutely amazing spectacle of just movement and dance expression. All these riders are kind of doing their own unique moves, a lot of them creating their own riding style as a whole. They're very often riding solely by themselves at home and then come together kind of as this family on these tours. It's a beautiful camaraderie as well as slight competition.
Yeah, well, Dan Hennig definitely does a lot of front wheel tricks. He tends to do a lot of front wheel tricks. He's got that front brake that's on there. You can see it's actually routed through the opposite direction. And what I mean by that is on his other grip traditionally, Chase Goon was the first rider way back in the 90s to wind up lacing it together the other way. But I said front wheel, and right now he's on his back wheel as the German right here is finding that position.
Oh my God, that Hennig is just crossing the surface.
Yes, cross-legged right there. Boom, putting the feet right down to pedals. Let's see if Hennig sticks with the back wheel or maybe he goes on the front wheel. Does a lot of mixed circle stuff. So let's see as Hennig passes that halfway mark.
Here we go, back on back wheels.
All right, well, Hennig making me eat my words as he's focusing on that back wheel. He does not have brakes there, but he would not need them if he's holding on to that front back. Oh! Trying to hop around and just doing that butt plant right there. Listen to the support here in Edmonton.
So we have 1 minute left on the clock. He's going to try and get this combo.
Yes, the Viva 360 second. Hot full cab. Yes, that's 45 seconds left. More. And then
Ooh.
37 seconds left.
All right, the clock is ticking. Hennig right now. Sticking to the back wheel, it looks like. Crossing it over, going upside down. One hand on the peg, other on the grip. Look at this, trying to increase his rotation speed, Ryan. Getting down to the nitty gritty. He's got 15 seconds to go. So a rider can put together a link or a combo out there. That's when they wind up putting tricks together. We've got some riders that can actually utilize almost to the entire 3 minutes out on the course.
Just not finishing that combination. That's going to be a hard one for the judges. Who's linking that in for almost over a minute.
Yeah,
not quite getting the combo.
A big part about it. If a rider puts the combinations together, links the tricks, the difficulty goes up as opposed to doing one single trick where you had maybe in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, riders would do one or two tricks out there. Now the goal is to roll. A rider wants to basically take their wheel and their momentum and have it be effortless from the beginning of their first trick all the way through, like an artist with the paintbrush, even strokes. And we do have some riders like Moto Sasaki who we might see out on the course for an approach where he can technically do up to 2 minutes, maybe even 3 minutes, one full link. And when the pressure's on with the judges and you got that one opportunity, you got to make it happen. So right now, Dan Hennig, again, we looked at a few highlights as his score is going to come on in. Again, we got our three judges, Alexi Deselnu, Marty Cuopa, and Vittorio Tanaka, who are going to basically be looking at what the fate of our three riders are. So his score's coming in. Hennig with the 68 even. So he's going to set the bar to beat that status that each rider is going to try to raise above. Well, our next rider, who is no stranger at all to competition at Feast because he was competing in our BMX Park event that just took place. So he is doing double duty today, Ryan. Definitely probably feeling winded from the event, but getting cheered on by his fellow Canadian crowd. This is Joel Bondu.
You know something very unique about this, starting Flatland and not having pegs. I am very interested to see what Bondu is going to have coming out here. Street style Whopper to opposite Whopper, going Whopper into foot jam.
So Joel, 2 years ago when we first came to Edmonton, yes, entered BMX flat because the energy was so cool here. and had such a great time, and all the Flatland riders welcomed Joel with open arms, and we're seeing him take some of his freestyle park tricks right here to the Flatland course. 180 double bar spin to a bar spin half cab. So one thing to note, the difference from year to year for Joel, he's progressed in his consistency with the tricks he's doing. So you're seeing some maybe non-traditional Flatland tricks, but Joel is putting them together. He's not putting his foot down, with the exception of one or two little bobbles here or there. Yo! Joel going for that front wheel balance point.
See, a bunch of the other freestyle athletes.
Whoa!
Yeah!
Bar spin, foot jam, bar spin. Now, these are tricks that we saw Joel do in the qualifier, which he'd actually throw on a quarter pipe. The bars, foot jam, bar spin out.
Oh, whopper.
Going for that
To
360
tire tap.
tail tap with the tail whip in, bar spin out.
Yeah, nice G-turn to foot jam.
Joel is a fitness fanatic along with his girlfriend. He also rides in the Cirque du Soleil, touring around. They have an awesome BMX show that you can check out called Volta. And Joel is sometimes a BMX rider. And when he's not on a tour with that, he's definitely hanging with his girl. And right now, bringing his Flatland skills to the feast. Come on, Joel. Oh.
Going for a 360 hop into a G-turn maybe.
Oh, trying to land on that front wheel. There's definitely no brakes on the bike. Come on, Joel. Trying to get that focus as the clock is 44 seconds for Bandhu. He's looking to focus on that front wheel, trying to find that balance point for a nose manual now. Bar spin around. Come on, Joel. Getting back by our Edmonton crowd. The Canadian bar spin.
I mean, this is a lot of hopping. It's really taking out a lot of fatigue in his arms.
So what you're seeing right now from Joel, he's doing some traditional ramp tricks in a Flatland competition. Yes! And even though he's doing modern day tricks, this is maybe more of the approach in the 80s and 90s that Flatlanders would have taken to a contest, where they would have taken some of their freestyle tricks from the park, maybe ride in a parking lot and bring it to Flatland as the sport was developing. So Joel out here really putting down a great run. So cool to see year, third year being the consistency factor out here for Joel. Like I said, first year he's having such a great time entering with the energy in Edmonton. And right now we're looking at that foot jam in between the two tail whips, and then also getting that fakie around. Here's a look at the bar spin, foot jam, bar spin. As we said, we see our MC on the floor, Quet right there, cheering on, getting involved with the show, getting our riders pumped up. Bar spin after that 360 tail tap attempt. Look at that half cab pressing the front wheel down. All right, Joel. Big props to Joel, not only for great riding, but also for coming out and going outside of his comfort zone year after year, riding in Flatland. I'm actually going to, safe to say now that this is his comfort zone, because Joel put down a great run out there.
And his current weight is 68 from Dan Henning, 120. More or less. We're now in 3 seconds.
This is really where the kind of originality comes in as well. Oh, and he's going to do it a 70.
All right, look at that score bumping up there, 7-0. So Joel Bandhu leading the pack, Dan Hennig with the 68. Big ups. Well, our next rider looking to take the course is the Spanish rider from Madrid. We're talking about Alberto Moya. So great seeing Alberto here. Such an awesome rider, and you're about to see why. He not only rides for Iggy, which is Jean-William Privot's company, awesome parts company, but he rides the exact opposite of Privot. You're going to see his speed is very slow, but that doesn't mean not hard or difficult. It actually means the exact opposite. He's got this style. He goes at this pace that doesn't mean boring, and you'll see his front wheel and his technique. He just works, Ryan.
It's a very difficult point to actually find the balance point and hold it at such low speeds.
Look at that. That's what we're talking about. Moya just finds that spot. And one thing I actually want to give Moya a lot of credit for, not only that pace, but he's also known for just twisting his body and his bike in different directions from each other, getting that perfect silhouette. And when he does, he'll sometimes grab the bike with the unique part of his body, of his foot, maybe even on a peg, maybe on a seat, which we're almost seeing right here. So Moya right now, keeping with his pace that he's known for and that focus on the front wheel. Yeah, Moya, look at that. So Moya reaching down, potentially going to touch that front wheel. A big part of Flatland right now in 2018 is where your body is positioned. Because if you're standing on the peg in a certain spot and you torque your body to the side, it takes all of your body weight and strength, and you've got to make it look smooth while you do. And Moya is a prime example as he's putting his foot on the frame, on the head tube. Yes, Moya, big ups. Wow, what a combo right there.
Moya going back on for the front wheel and locks in between the tire and the seat. He's going backwards on the front wheel with no hands, trying to get the pumps.
Moya currently 12th overall in our points race. Making to look in the final so we could get some serious points to move forward as we progress at stop 3. Moya sticking to that front wheel we talked about,
yes.
And there is that positioning. You see the fact that he had his bike tweaked to the side and using his upper part of his shoe on the top tube to hold that perfect positioning.
Okay, on the front wheel, big speed going in.
Look at that, traveling backwards, switching the direction right there. Moya hopping his feet around, getting a quick little scuff in, choosing to run that front brake. So the clock is ticking. You could hear he's got 19 to go. Barely rolling. Even though Moya's pace is probably going to be the slowest we see out here, it's one of the most exciting. Come on, Moya. You can see he keeps checking the clock, feeling that pressure as it's winding down. Well-deserved applause for Mr. Moya.
So few replays of Alberto.
So let's break down some of the madness. Look at the front wheel balance. His body is behind the seat right there. You can see that positioning. He's got his rear end tucked up against the tire. He's able to put the seat in the groin area, keeping that balance spot and boning the bike forward, leaning back, laid back style. But right now it's all about Moya as he finds that unique positioning with his foot over the head tube, again using the upper part of his sneaker, and he's able to take his hands off. Moya putting his foot right on the front pedal, able to then spin around. Here's a look at the front wheel unique style of Moya as he travels backwards, finding that pivot point right there, each time accelerating, rolling on through. And here was another highlight from his run, putting that foot in the opposite spot on the top tube, finding the balance point. So Alberto Moya, big run right there. Hopefully he'll get a big score. He did have a lot of touchdowns, Ryan, which we saw. The name of the game is perfection out here. So that can be definitely, it's almost you got to balance it if you're a rider.
Yeah.
How hard do you push? But if you wind up sandbagging and doing tricks maybe of your yesteryear, you're not going to be rewarded with as high of a score. But if you're trying to push your riding and you mess up a bunch, it's that balance point, right? I mean, pun intended,
yeah.
for Flatland being a balance spot.
But for Flatland as well, it's really about finding that creativity and that originality, and so many riders going out there and developing their own style. And that's as well the interesting part, where you can have riders like Bandhu come in and actually still qualify for an event like this, doing something completely different than the norm of these rolling tricks, taking the street influenced BMX freestyle aspect, moving it over to the Flatland, trying to link some combos in. And that is why I think it's such a cool, diverse sport.
So Moya's score coming in right here, 67.50. It's something to highlight. Joel Bondu leading the contest after 3 riders. I guarantee you that's something that he did not think or anyone else did this morning when they looked at the list. But that just goes to show you Bondu's put a lot of time in and looking to move up on the list.
Moving over to our next competitor, Tyler Gilliard. This is a rider now that we are going to go into fast spins.
Yes.
As we just saw some slow technical rotations, we are going to get into some heavy rotations right here.
Yeah, Tyler from Florida in the United States rides for Autumn. It's an up-and-coming brand that definitely mixes street and flatland riders together as far as that element's concerned. You can almost see the way that his bike is set up. He's got that 4-peg style, but he's going backwards. Oh! Going for that big hop. If we remember correctly, earlier in the season, he had a bike malfunction. He actually grabbed somebody else's bike and had a stellar run, where he was still able to do some of his signature front wheel tricks. He has a lot of focus on that front wheel. Oh! There's that speed you were talking about. Yes!
This one is done. 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. The taking. What happened? Watch now, come on, stay focused here. Come on, come on.
So Tyler right now, 1 minute in, 2 to go. It's interesting to see how many riders we've seen with that front brake on their front wheel. It's usually a sign a rider puts a lot of time balancing on that part of the bicycle. And here are those fast spins you were talking about, Ryan. So you can see another rider that focuses on the front wheel, but yet has a completely different style than Alberto Moya.
1 minute and 20 seconds left.
Getting down to the nitty gritty, 90 seconds down, 90 to go. Let's see how the Autumn rider makes sense of it.
Yes, beautiful turn.
Oh, stepping all the way to the pedal. You could see using his height to his advantage. Able to maneuver around the bike with his feet. So look at the way he's started his link. That's a key thing when a rider winds up getting into it. As far as they position their cranks, his right crank is forward, or his right pedal is forward, rather. So let's see if he winds up trying to step to that pedal again. You got to plan ahead as far as your bike goes and the combinations, because we talked about riders linking all of these things together.
And he's really just off the mental focus here. And an upset.
So you can see right now how much of Flatland, you talked about riders spending so much time by themselves riding. Well, you got to be able to deliver in the pressure cooker situation of a competition, which is a totally different aspect from riding by yourself. So unfortunately, though, Tyler having some difficulties, but I got to give him some props for just demonstrating some really great front wheel riding.
Okay.
Moving forward, we are going to have a 4-minute break right now. We're going to check some highlights from Tyler on screen and our next 4 competitors.
Yeah, so Tyler right there having a little bit of difficulty on the second half of his run, but you got to give props. There you can see Jean-William Privot in the background saying, hey, you know what, man, you got out there, you got in the ring. It's very impressive for any rider to even be here at this competition. As we said, we had our qualifier yesterday open to all riders. So cool that it's been growing at each stop. I believe in Japan we had 38 of our qualifiers as we are taking a look at some of our riders on competition. But Ryan, I want to take a moment right here to just talk a little bit about our riders' bike setup. So we've seen 4 different riders out on the course. We saw Hennig, Bondu, Moya, and Gilliard, and they all had different setups. Now, a big part about Flatland is the fact that you can basically take your bike, That's the only variable out here. You don't have a different park. You're on a flat surface, and it's all in how you want to set your bicycle up. And what we're going to see are some riders, not only throughout time as technology improves, maybe they wind up rocking a different bike part, but what you see is styles change. So if this were the 80s and 90s, riders would have brakes on their bike. They would definitely have pegs on their bike because the tricks would be more stationary. As things progressed, you had riders, as I mentioned, Chase Guin, who was one of the first to start really manipulating as far as the brakes on the bike, the positioning, and then taking them off. A few years later, you had riders like Dylan Worsley, who actually pushed the envelope, taking his pegs off his bike, and did a whole bunch of just pedal tricks that blew everyone's mind what's possible. But now the fact, what we're at with Flatland, it's about making tricks that were once stationary, now making them have motion, having them movement, similar to how BMX, you had riders take their brakes off on park or street, and they wound up doing things you didn't think possible. But it's all about that momentum. So as we're looking at the highlights, I want to look at each one of these riders' bikes. And we're basically seeing Dan Hennig. His bike is a double diamond frame, and he's got that front brake on his bike. And that's what we talked about. Even though he did focus a lot on his back wheel, one of his specialties is to be on that front wheel. So that's why you can see that front brake on there. Totally flipping the script around, you see Joel Bondu out here, who is rocking a traditional Flatland, a traditional freestyle bike. He's got the gyro, the pegs in the back, but in the last few years, definitely the freestyle bikes have gotten lower top tubes, shorter back ends. We're almost seeing the, I guess you could say, merging of the two different bikes together. I mean, his bike could almost pass as a Flatland bike, especially with his low seat placement. So let's take a look. We got Moya up here balancing on that front wheel. He's another rider who does that front wheel balance, and he's got that front brake on. And if we're talking about the evolution of bikes, you want to give props to Paul Usica. He was actually one who put two front brake levers on that both went to the front wheel. Paul was a great rider who rode for Standard. He was another one who pushed geometry as far as Flatland bikes, going from unique bends to more of a traditional double diamond style with this signature Tau bike on Standard. But here's Moya right now balancing, going backwards right there. You see him finding that wobble spot. That is not him getting squirrely. That's him actually pumping in the circle to generate speed so that he's able to then set up in that unique laid-back position, finding the balance point. Right now we're taking a look at Tyler Gillard as he is going in that perfect trophy. You can see his right foot dangling on down and getting in there. So we got our next four riders on the course. But one other thing to definitely note, not only the brakes on the bikes, but riders can choose to have pegs or no pegs. It's all about their setup and their geometry. It looks like the trend as we move towards 2018 is definitely more towards a bike that would look like you'd find a street rider or park rider to have. That's why Joel Bondu's setup doesn't even look that far out of the loop or style. Things have gotten so technical in park, street, and Flatland that it makes sense that there's a hybrid. Well, our next rider from Madrid, Spain, everyone's going nuts watching him. He is an absolute legend, Nora Cup winner. Definitely so focused on his riding. When he's not competing, he does countless shows. That's why he's so precise, traveling the world, spreading the gospel of Flatland.
This is none other than Vicky Gomez taking a seat.
Vicky Gomez, legend of the sport, takes his riding so serious. Also the content that he creates. Does a lot of cool photo shoots on his Instagram. Really unique where he does different props he brings in. Also storytelling. He's got some great stories where he's riding with his cape. Beautiful photography. You can give him a follow on his Instagram and definitely check out the action. But right now he's balancing up on that front wheel. Vicky choosing to ride brakeless. Yes! Oh, quick pause.
And reverses it here.
Vicky having a little bit of trouble. So I mentioned Vicky is no stranger to the contest scene. Some might see him as more of an old school rider. What I mean by that, not by the age, but the fact that he's so well-rounded. You're going to potentially see Vicky utilizing both parts of the bike, not necessarily being as focused on front or back wheel. Yes! As some riders might be. such as Moya on the front or maybe Provo more on the back wheel. You could definitely see that so far with Vicky as he is getting 1 minute in to his 3-minute run. So Vicky definitely goes forwards and backwards right here, spinning the bars around. You see he's able to hop back, unfortunately dumping it forward. Let's see if he goes for the same combination, rolling it around, grabbing the seat right here. Watch, watch, watch. Yes! Not only using his hand to spin it, but you saw he kicking it with his feet as well.
Just did a full jump over the entire head tube, the backside of the pegs, cross-footed now, and links that combo perfectly. Vicky Gomez, let's say I learned a lot from Claude Hickman. If you're watching, we miss you out here on the flatline scene. Maybe we'll see you at the next events, would be great. But he was saying as well, Vicky is known for necessarily bringing Flatland to kind of these black tie events, doing a lot of interesting demos throughout.
Yeah, Vicky. So we talked about Vicky being a legend. One of our judges, Marty Copa, is actually a longtime friend of Vicky. They actually had a bike company together back in the day, KGB, Copa and Gomez Bikes. And right now you're seeing the fact that they're traveling through life together. Still doing it. One rider, a judge, does not mean that Marty does not have what it takes to actually be out here with some of our riders. But he is just not competing in the Feast Series, and he is adding his expertise and judgment right now as we watch Gomez go upside down, pumping the speed. Oh!
And that's going to do it, the 3 minutes of Vicky Gomez, one of the most respected flatland riders in the world. See some highlights from Vicky's 3 minutes on course here.
Take note, front wheel, back wheel, forwards, backwards. That's what I was talking about, being such a well-rounded rider. And that's where I was talking about old school, not age, but just classic is actually what I'm going to say, because you see right here, back wheel, hands are off. Gomez finding the pedals very smooth right there. Here's the look, switching things up on that front wheel, kicking the handlebars around, helping with the assistance with the hands. And Gomez switching it back now on the back tire. Again, a well-rounded flatland rider. So some riders, Ryan, could have a specialty where one part of their bike is the focus, but Vicky's showing you he's so well-rounded out there and showing you why he's a legend right there, going backwards. Hand off, reaching over, flipping the bike upside down, crossing his legs. And then right to pedals, very clean end to his link. So right there, Gomez gambling with the links, jumping it up and getting an 88.83. So he was definitely rolling the dice, jumping like that, but being well paid off as his score almost cracks into the 90s. So putting a sizable 18-point difference between Joel Bondu in second place.
Now we're moving forward to our two homies from Germany. This is going to be first up, Dustin Alt. These guys are young and fast and bring that kind of Berlin vibe. I do believe Dustin's from Leipzig. Not 100% sure on that, but some of the spins, and check out how fast they can move. Dustin Alt.
Yeah. Alt riding for We the People, rocking the Utopia frame. It's definitely a bike that's built for flatland and street. I say that because you mentioned Berlin, no stranger to urban environments, just out in New York City, where he put together a really cool edit. You can check that out online, and Alt is showing you those combinations. I think Joel Bondu is a perfect example to see out here from Freestyle Park looking into Flatland, as we have Flatland almost looking into Freestyle Park and street with Alt. Back wheel, look at the positioning, rolling the speed, Ryan, just getting that flow down. Oh, foot was on the bottom bracket, switched to the pedals, and that was clean. Yes.
Super nice link so far from Dustin Alt.
So Alt rocking it brakeless out there. I keep talking about the bike styles, but it's such an important part of Flatland. This looks like a street bike 100%.
And as you will notice, Dustin Alt and Kevin Nikolsky, they have very street influenced geometries within their frames. They're basically just a normal street BMX.
Yes! And the reason we keep bringing that up is because Flatland-specific bikes had geometry that would be very sharp and precise to favor balance points. Yo! But Alt out here, you can even see where the geometry is that where you can ride street, so the dropouts and the handlebars, as far as the stem's concerned, it's not straight up and down 90 degrees. There's actually some distance from the fork to where the handlebar would meet that balance point. So Alt keeping it to the back wheel, getting in that spin zone. Look at the body position and reaching behind his back. Whoa. Ah. Alt's going big. Lots of back wheel spins, and you can definitely see the manual combo style getting the crowd support here in Edmonton. Let's go, Alt. Sticking to that back wheel.
13 seconds left.
Going for the link on this one again.
Ooh.
Grabbing the front peg.
I hope he has enough
Trying to
time.
get into time machine there.
I literally was like, I want him to have more time. I want to see this. Big ups, Dustin.
Huge love from Kevin as well. They're traveling around the world together, these two.
So cool. Look at that, reaching behind the back. That's what's so impressive, to get in that body position while your foot's on the peg and you maintain the balance position. There is a half cab tail whip, a little bit of that street influence. Yeah, and you can see those straight tubes on the bike. That's a big part of why we keep saying these different style influence. Definitely Chad Johnston at Intricate and S&M is another rider who has a whole division of frames that use that traditional style welding out there, where you don't necessarily see the crazy curves that some of the bikes that are super Flatland specific have been known for. But look right there on that front wheel. So Alt throwing down. He did have some difficulties on that last combo. We do have our 3 Grand Wizard judges, Alexei Deselnu, Marty Quopa, and Mr. Tanaka. Let's see, 80.33, boom, up in there. So still a sizable lead between our top 2 riders. Vicky Gomez holding strong with an 88, Dustin Alt with an 80, and Bondu with a 70. All right, well, our next rider, Germany, Berlin is where he calls home. Definitely an explosive rider. He's got a big bike and big style. Look at those handlebars. I believe those might be 9 or even 10-inch bars, but that definitely translates to his riding.
Here we go. It's none other than Kevin Nikolsky starting things off, a rider who has explosive attitude on the bike as he takes foot on the Flatland course. Look at these transitions.
Yeah, Nikolsky, not only is he covered in tattoos with a lot of style visually, that translates to his bike where he does these big explosive hops. He likes to gamble. Sometimes the consistency's not there because he goes for such hard, difficult tricks, but he's definitely starting things off right now with his first combination checked off the list.
When Kevin is on it, he is really on, and you can definitely tell in his riding he's having so much fun out there. Very explosive and expressive attitude on the bike. Thousands of hours go into practicing to become a perfectionist at these types of maneuvers.
Nikolsky currently sitting in 7th after our 2 stops. Yes.
2 minutes left.
So he's definitely a gambler. If this were Vegas, all of his chips would be in the table, not playing anything safe as far as the difficulty goes. And you can see that with the big hops from one bike part to the other. So starting things off now on that front wheel, spinning around. He's got his right foot planted on the peg. Look at that can, and there you go, hopping. Exactly what we were talking about.
Go back in for that link.
Yes, spoke too soon.
Just not getting it.
So you can see all of our riders checking the clock. They're trying to work it, make sure you're not there. It's a lot of stress in this situation, something that requires so much finesse and to be completely relaxed. Yes, totally leaning the bike over and rotating the handlebars. Nikolsky, come on, stick it clean. Let's see it.
Going into time machine here.
Oh! Right up on the bottom bracket, stepping over to the pedals. That was a serious, solid combination right there. I actually thought he was maybe going to end the link early, but like you said, he's a gambler. He said, you know what, I'm keeping this party rolling.
We have less than a minute on the clock. This is time probably for one more good combination. Yes! Come on, Kevin. Bring us one home.
Whoop. Wow, that was that explosive speed we were talking about, literally whipping that bike around to get in at that momentum.
So many switches throughout that entire link right there, already within just a couple seconds of each other.
Yes! What a great exclamation point at the end of 3-minute run. Well-deserved round of applause out here. So the clock reads 0 as Nikolsky is psyched. You see, getting his energy going, giving his boy some props right there. That was Dustin Alt, who we just saw, a fellow German rider, but right now it's on that front wheel. As we look at the highlights, hopping around, that's what we talked about, the big gambler. Hopefully it pays off big at the score. Right now, all of his chips are just sitting in the middle of the craps table. As we saw the 3 minutes gambling, as it looked very smooth right there. Foot on the frame, such a highlight. You can see the way that he actually has to thread the needle between his seat and his top tube to grab, and there you go, standing up on that bottom bracket in order to position himself to step over the top tube and get right where he's got to go. This was a great run, fantastic run for him. So as we said, he was sitting in 7th after 2 stops, looking to make the finals, and 83.66, not too shabby at all for Nikolsky. You can see he's definitely psyched, feeling the energy and feeling the vibe. But as we said, we have 16 riders. We are taking the top 8, so you want to make sure that you get that score as close to the 100 mark as you can. Well, we talk about unique bike setups. Our next rider from Japan definitely has a unique one, not only in color, but in detail.
Ikeda Takahiro is about to take the floor, and definitely this is one of the bikes that reminds me of Street Fighter.
Yeah, definitely digging the unique style, very flat specific. If we take a look, there's one rear brake on the right side. He has that gyro, but you can see that the way his forks, the dropout is directly below so that the angle is less, and even with that stem holding the bars, it's as close to the fork as possible, so when the bars are forwards or backwards, you're dealing with that same geometry. Takahiro definitely specializes. Oh, look at that rotation. Yes! Definitely does a lot of fire hydrant-based tricks. He'll stand on the front pegs and tends to bring his bike to the side. There we go, whipping around. Upside down, you see that back leg. Look at the position, Ryan.
Wow, he does absolutely amazing body work as he gets into some of these spins.
So one of his specialty over the course of the last few years has been taking a lot of the stationary tricks that people invented in the 90s and 2000s and putting motion and momentum into them.
Okay, 1 minute and 55 seconds left.
As you can hear Quet saying there's less than 2 minutes to go. What?
Wow.
That was defying logic somehow. Just a quick pause in the middle and getting that momentum to spring back up, and the positioning that we're seeing from Aikita.
1 minute and 25 seconds left.
We are seeing some solid consistency out here.
Yeah, boy. Good. Okay, back in again.
Ikeda coming back into a cross-legged time machine there.
Ikeda is another rider who rides in Cirque du Soleil. So anytime you've got a rider who performs on a nightly basis, either in the circus or doing shows, there's a consistency that has to be achieved. And you can work the crowd on demand. And right here, we're seeing the body position again. So unique how he's squatting down right there, grabbing the crank arm and pedal.
With both hands.
Oh! 36 seconds. I hope that he returns to this combination and can get it.
He's actually pedaling with his hands while squatting on the back pegs, spinning full speed.
Let's see. So many flatland tricks
here he goes,
don't
here he
even
goes.
have names these days.
One hand, two hands, pedaling.
Oh, the bike almost flying out from him.
And that is going to do it for Ikeda Takahiro, all the way from Japan. Really throwing it together.
I told you that you wasn't ready for that.
So you see some beautiful replays from a few of those links. How effortlessly some of these riders are able to do these. Look at that, jump full over. Like you said, Daryl, defying logic on some of these connections.
Oh, so cool, the positioning right there. That was the one where his frame was literally twisted around his leg, and then almost as if like a break dancer would just hit a quick pause and keep it rolling. Just so cool. And then he has that sit and spin move right here. Both hands are on the pedals. So unique out there. Takahiro putting it all on the line. Such a difficult move to be one of our judges. So we actually have our 4-minute break. You could see that clock ticking down, but you know what? If we're going to talk about the judges that are right next to the clock, why don't we just take a little minute to highlight? Like I said, we got our 3 judges out there. They are absolute legends. We have Alexei Desselnu from Germany. He's got his own company, Hersey, that really has been pushing not only Flatland with the riders that they get behind, but definitely some of the geometry. So cool that they wind up having revolutionary frame and forks where dropouts wind up changing when you spin. It's so cool. You want to check them up at online. But definitely big props. They just had a big signing they took Peter Olsen and put him on the team. So Alexi, no stranger at all to judging our contest, but you could also see a very cool edit of him online riding the Spot skate park down in Florida, where he's done some really cool, unique grinds on his front wheel and his front peg. He does some unique hang 5 grinds. But you also know that we got Marty Kopa, as I mentioned, 5 times world champion. He actually came back out of a retirement where he rode in the flat arc competition, one of the biggest independent flatland contests in Japan. And I believe that he actually beat out Jean-William Privot, our champion here. So it shows that he's got the skills to beat not only judges contemporary riders, but to also beat them in competition. So it's so cool when you have riders who are of that level and the caliber. But I do want to give props to Marty not only for his riding, he also has his own competition online, mastersofcreativity.com. It's definitely one of the most progressive video competitions in all of BMX freestyle and BMX as a whole, where riders wind up submitting videos of themselves doing never done before footage. And if you are even remotely featured on that site, you are a pioneer of your craft. And our last but not least judge, Vittorio Tanaka from Japan. Such a cool rider. He's got his own company, Motel Works. They do frames, parts, and he basically can ride it all and make it look good. Definitely a rider who's got some unique features on his bike, front and back brakes, chrome parts always. Never really been a big contest winner, but always so well respected within the scene. And Ryan, it's so cool having the Motel Works owner out here, Tanaka, calling all the shots for our riders. Just so cool that Feast brings in the world's best to make sure that all of our riding is not only up to par, but is also being super progressive. So we have the highlights that you're still seeing on screen right there. There was Nikolsky, super psyched after his run. Taking a look right there. Mr. Squat and Spin himself, foot over. There's that quick touchdown, like I said. I don't even want to use the word touchdown, because usually in flat, that means you put your foot on the ground. That was totally in control. Foot was on the bike. It was almost that quick little pause that a breaker would do while they are doing some break dancing. There is that Squat and Spin, hands on the cranks, looping back out off the bike, but still one of the most cool tricks that we've seen so far of the contest. So if you hear that buzzer, that means that our 4 minutes are up. Our next 4 riders are ready to roll.
Okay, Edmonton, this is the set. Are you ready? Yeah! Are you sleeping on Edmonton? Ready, here we go! Okay, everyone. Next rider is one of the youngest rider of this area.
So our next 4 riders, our next rider up there is going to be Takumi Zogai from Japan.
This kid's going to destroy everything. First ticket of top to the timer.
Very young athlete coming out.
Okay, Takumi. You gotta take speed.
So we picked up a lot of interesting talent when we went to Hiroshima. Wow, look at the quick spins on this young athlete.
Only 15 years old.
Who I've yet to watch in competition.
Yeah, if we're going to focus on some of the bikes right here, not only are you seeing unique spinning style, reaching behind the back, grabbing both pegs, but as you mentioned, different bike styles. This is definitely another one that's got unique geometry. A lot of unique welds and extra parts on there, but it's building the speed and momentum.
These are some very influenced tricks from riders such as Matthias Dandois. You're going to notice as well that the judges will score higher for original tricks to those riders. So for instance, if Matthias is doing tricks like that, he will be scored, I am sure, higher. Not to take away from the difficulty of doing such amazing tricks, but it is almost about creating your own language.
Yeah, riders are artists out there. They're looking to make their own Picasso. peace as they just flow through this blank canvas. The Japanese rider, you see him setting things up. Only a minute and 30 to go. Wow.
Whoa, these are some incredible.
Look at the acceleration. Then standing up vertical, hand on the peg, goes back to the seat.
Perfectly getting out of that link right there.
Go on, Takuri, go on. Yes, we'll get this quick. Yeah, boy, you got it. Look. It looks so easy, Jay.
Wow.
Hey,
Staying very front wheel focused out here. We talked about that front brake earlier. Some riders had it. Well, very similar to Paulo Sica, like I mentioned. He's got the two levers on the brake going to the front wheel. And this is where he's focused with the hands off. Are you kidding? The handlebar is balancing on his rear end, able to keep that back end up, elevated off the deck. Takumi trying to work that clock. Might have time for one final thought. He's got 4 seconds to go. What a run. Respect to Japan. This young man is absolutely crushing it. And take a look on our zoom in right there, that front wheel. Both of those brake levers go to that front. So you mentioned there was some influence from Matthias Dandois' riding, but we also could see the setup of Paulo Sica right there, where the two levers go to that front wheel. So take a look right there, switching his hands off, then able to set up to reach backwards and position himself off kilter. And here's where we talked about no hands. That handlebar is balanced on the upper thigh.
Oh, wow, these are incredible spins.
Body positioning. Just bringing himself lower with each pump and acceleration. You can see right there, utilizing his foot on that wheel as each time that frame comes around, was scuffing down on the tire and has that front brake to wind up pulling. It's almost a push-pull with your foot, and you slow it down. So cool seeing the different styles out there. But again, here it is, laying it over, far enough to grab that seat.
So what are the scores of Takumi? The score still is still 88. Only 15 years old. He destroyed everything. So in the third heat, we got 4 heats at the top of 4 riders each.
So still waiting for the score as we saw those pinky squeaks. This is the nail-biting moment where you're always wondering at what is going to go on. The young rider laying it all out there, so impressed. I believe he might only be 15 years of age, 71.66. All right, I'll give it to him. Big score. Unfortunately, not into the 80s, but really impressive for a young rider. And the only thing to do with experience is wind up going up from there. So,
you know, I tell you what I think. If he creates his own style, if you really notice that he has his own unique moves in there, he is going to be unstoppable. He has absolutely incredible balance and spinning.
Well, we see a lot in BMX park, street, dirt. A lot of riders wind up figuring out some other riders' tricks. And usually about that age bracket, they get it down, they get it together, and then start to develop their own style once they have all the tools and their arsenal out there. I'm not necessarily saying that's what Takumi was doing out there. I'm just giving him props for his run, and I know that we're gonna see a lot of him to come in the future as he develops.
Our next rider out of Japan, ready to get his 3 minutes on the gate, starting backwards on the bike. This is Ishizaki Hidenori from Japan, starting it off slow.
Okay, this one is done. As I told you, we're gonna bring new style here. So slow, so tired.
Cross-footed on the back pegs. Contrary to his other mates from Japan, he is definitely taking the route of more steady, consistent, and in my opinion, more difficult to hit those balance points and keep it there.
Yeah, Ryan, because one thing he's really known for is riding backwards. And I don't mean just rolling backwards, but you can see even how he's positioned on his bike in that backwards spot. Definitely another one who's will launch himself, yes, will launch himself vertically into tricks, which you'll see the bike position as far as it's in relation to the ground. But also want to give props right now. He's rocking an S&M bike. You can see he's riding an intricate, I mentioned Chad Johnston had his intricate video series that actually wound up turning into a division of S&M bikes, which is a very Flatland specific, yes. So we're seeing all the varieties of bikes out here. Even though this looks like it might be a freestyle street bike, you could tell that the bars are a lot smaller than Nikolsky's. You can see the different seat post heights out here for different riders where it positions so that maybe they would say, hey, I want to put it close to my knees. Just about to round the final 60 seconds. It's a very incredible run because the backwards technical ability here. You see it rolling backwards, riding backwards. Think about when you were a kid and you'd sit on your bike backwards trying to pedal down the street, how difficult that is. Well, that's what we're seeing, but with also rolling in different directions. Look at this, exactly what I said, right up on the handlebars, going backwards with a foot on the pedal. So difficult. We talk about riders having their own style. I don't think we're gonna see anyone else take this approach to going backwards on their bike like this. Japan is known for its creativity, also for its flatland scene. We saw in Hiroshima with 38 riders coming out. We actually pick up in our semifinal, I believe we have 4 riders from Japan, just showing you how big the Japanese space is for flatland. Cross-legged? What? Cross-legged backwards manual. Whatever. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyone who's ever ridden down the street and sat on their bike trying to pedal backwards just knows how difficult that is. Can't even believe it, the backwards manual. So let's take a look. No hands right there, traveling. So cool to see. Look at that, crossing his arm over underside and then just scooping under the bike. So we are getting halfway through our third heat of riders, Ryan.
The next rider up, warming up on deck. We're going to show them to you in a moment. So just wait for the scores to come in right now for Shizaki.
Yeah, again, there's a look at our judges. You can see with the long hair, Alexei Dezelnu. To his right, our left, that's Marty Kopa. And then to Alexei's left and our right, is the Japanese Vittorio Tanaka. 3 grandmasters of the sport, 3 riders who helped write the book of Flatland. And right now, 3 riders who are determining the fate at our UCI BMX Freestyle Flatland World Cup.
Waiting for that score to come in from those top-ranked judges.
So much goes into judging these 3 minutes. I mean, you think it's crazy doing it on the bike. You got to figure out what is going on.
And here it comes, an 81.33, good enough for 3rd place right now. And that means we're moving forward to our next competitor. It is a man who needs no introduction on the FIS circuit, nor in Flatland BMX. The only competitor who has competed at absolutely every single one of the FIS stops since its infancy and since its creation back in Montpellier 22 years ago. It's none other than Alex Jumelin, ready to take his 3 minutes in Edmonton.
You know how it works. 3 minutes to decide, take it up in the horse, buddy. Very fast, there we go, plastic man.
Alex Jumelin, a rider who has reinvented
Keep pushing, yes.
the book, let's say, of Flatland BMX time and time again.
Yeah, and Jumelin also reinvented his own riding styles a few years ago. He actually moved down to New Orleans with his entire family, his 2 sons and his wife. She was down there teaching while he was sitting there teaching BMX to younger generations, having his own school going, but really going back to school himself with a big focus on that front wheel. We're going to see a lot of boomerangs out of Jumelin, where he won't touch down his back end and he'll actually be rolling in these combinations. So Jumelin right now, 2 minutes, 15 seconds to go, as he is looking to keep that cross-legged start on the front end, stepping over, getting that front wheel for the scuff.
Smart. Stay on front, 8 hours for the right road. And who's got his goal ready now? Come on, 1 minute and 56 seconds left. Come on, Alex.
So Jumelin looking for consistency. He's been consistent this season. 2nd place in Montpellier, 3rd in Hiroshima, enough to be sitting 2nd in points. Look at that, both hands on the pegs, hands coming up.
1 minute and 34 seconds left. Come on, Alex, come on. Watch the ball,
Jumelin has been instrumental in BMX Flatland and the FIS. He is such an advocate for the sport and making sure that Flatland is always included. And our founder, Hervé André Benoit, has said, you know what, Flatland is part of the fabric of FIS. And right now, Hervé is down cheering on Jumelin in the front row as we are seeing these unique front wheel combos with 51 seconds to go for Jumelin. When Jumelin's not traveling the world promoting Flatland and competing, you can find him in Montpellier, where he has the FIS Flat Academy, an indoor riding spot where he's helping harvest the future of Flatland riders. Look at this, stepping up over the head tube.
Wow, Jumelin, man, so much respect.
Jumelin, 20 seconds, looking to dig deep. Yes. Oh, bars are backwards. Spinning it back around. Looks like he's just riding out the clock. Yeah. Jumelin. Actually, we talk about bike setups. He's got his own signature line on Coast Cycles called Humble. And Jumelin, for all of his accomplishments, definitely is a very humble man. Has helped shape Flatland. Big ups to Jumelin as his score is waiting to come in. You can see the passion just oozing out of this man for over 22 years of competition in the FIS and all of our stops. And to be so excited about his riding and progressing and pushing not only his but the future of the sport, that is just the sign of somebody who lives by the wheel and dies by the wheel. So look at this, Jumelin back wheel balance point, stepping over, putting his foot right on the pedal, scuffing, turning it around, cleanly ending his link. And right now, bars were backwards. He literally was just doing all these cabs. We'd wind up cabbing around, finding that balance point, almost working the clock, and then a decade out at the end, no breaks. You can see his protege and current leader, Matthias Dandois, in the background cheering him on. So that definitely is a very cool part of Jumelin. This is not new to him saying, hey, I'm an established pro, I'm gonna bring up the younger generations. Alex brought up Matthias Dandois. He was a pupil, a disciple of the legend throughout the years. It shows Jumelin always provided that support. And we have a new leader, a 90.16.
90.6. Jumelin is on top right now. That is a score that's going to be very difficult to beat. Our first athlete pushing into the 90s.
Okay, now. A French to the boys. And now, go from south of France.
And now we go back down to the south of France. Rafael Shiki out here as well with his wife.
You want to talk about style, we are about to witness it, not only with riding, but also this man, his style of dress, I definitely approve.
Dirty Dancing taking the floor.
Yeah, you say that because last year in Budapest just took to the stage and basically converted our Flatland floor into a dance floor as the party went into the wee hours of the morning.
Oh, we put a little Pulp Fiction right now. DJ Dadu.
One thing to definitely keep an eye on is his fast hand movements. He definitely tends to switch the bike quickly around to the back. He's also another rider who kind of switches things up where he actually have the bike rotate around his body. We'll see what we're talking about as he winds up breaking through past the 2-minute, 20-second mark. There we go. That's what I was talking about. You can see he had his balance point. Look at that. The bike is going around his body as if his body was a pole stationary in the ground. Rafael on the front wheel. Oh. Rafael currently sitting in 22nd. He was not in Japan with us. So he only has one finish for the year, but it's so great seeing him out here. Definitely had a little bit of absence for a while, but he came back to the scene in a huge way. Presence is felt at every event. I feel like he sets the tone and the energy for people just having a good time. You know, if we're at the hotel and I see this man's dress and attire, it puts a big smile on my face and we wind up chit-chatting.
All right. 1 minute. Okay, here we go. Yes. You got it, Raf. You got it. 21. Come on, stay ready, go. Stay focused on it. 48 seconds left.
Getting down to the nitty-gritty, the final 45.
Okay, another one.
Oh,
Okay, no time.
taking a slam right there. Look, you might be riding on flat ground and saying, hey, there's no ramp, you're not dropping from the sky, but don't get it twisted. You can get really hurt riding Flatland.
Oh, you definitely can. Watch Matthias Dandois' last video part.
That might have had a handrail or two thrown in there in the mix, but definitely out on the Flatland. Yeah, Ryan, you can take a beating, you're right.
10 seconds left, bro. 10 seconds left.
Wow, that was a crazy link. Ah, not getting it right down to the buzzer. That's going to be it.
One, and over. Oh! Make some noise for Rafael Shiki!
That does it so far for this heat, I believe.
Yeah, that is going to be heat number 3. So we've had 12 riders take to the course. We've got our next 4 riders who are going to be, these are going to be our top qualifiers. We can actually see them practicing out there. Sasaki, Hudson, Privot, and Dandois. Those are our top 4 qualifiers. You see the clock in the corner at the 4 minutes counting down as we are getting the opportunity to look at some highlights. You can see what I was talking about as far as his body being the center position and the bike rotating around in some of the combos. So cool. We talked about the hands having to be very quick going around, keeping an eye and finding that spot. Look at the reach around. Very cool. See that quick scuff up there, able to keep the momentum. And then that positioning, just leaning the bike over as he hops back to pedals. Big smile, hopefully big score. Thumbs are up, getting the props out there from Quet, our MC extraordinaire. So you see up next, Moto Sasaki, as we are waiting for our scores to come in. Our riders got a few moments to shake things up in our practice. Also gives the judges an opportunity to make sure that the deck is racked. As we wait for our score to come on in. You know what, Ryan, though? This gives a perfect opportunity, though, to just talk a little bit about how global Flatland is. It's not only necessarily here that we see on the tour, but anybody can get themselves a bike. It literally doesn't have to be a flat-specific bike that's thousands of dollars. You build up what you want. You could start with any bicycle, and you could wind up finding all of these form boards online where there's these communities and you could look into it. I want to give a little bit of shout to the online community, specifically flatmatters.com. I know Ephraim has been running the show over there. He's actually a past judge here at FIS. As look at this score coming in, Rafael Shiki, a 78. So let's quickly look at the score while we get back to our online. So if we have 4 more riders to go, and we're only taking our top 8 who are going to be progressing. That means Jumelin, Gomez, Nikolsky, and Hidenori are going to be in. It means if you're Alt, Chiquette, Aikida, or Isalgagi, you are on the bubble looking out. We got our highlights going in, but I'm just going to get back to it for a minute. GlobalFlat.com as well. You guys really support the entire scene. As I mentioned, mastersofcreativity.com. You can see some of the most progressive riding. And then if you do want to get yourself a bike and get rolling, flatlandfuel.com. They are basically where you can get yourself an entry-level bike and start riding. If you're blessed enough to be anywhere in France, in Montpellier, go onto our FIS.TV website or FISWorldSeries.com, and you can look up and find our FIS Flatland Academy. You can actually take classes from the Grandmaster Alex Jumelin himself, who we saw out there just riding with a very big score and who is our current leader. He is on screen right now as we are talking. But I do want to give a shout out to all of our Flatland scenes around the world, specifically my hometown of New York City. I know all of our Flatland riders right now are watching, specifically my man, Aaron Brown. I know that he is glued to our live stream. He's been checking in, sending us tweets and messages the entire time. Aaron, can't wait to ride with you back in New York. I was just talking to our judges about you. Alexi Deselnu said he wants to come and ride with you back there in a Union Square. So sending a little love back home as we are looking at still a few highlights from Rafael Shiki's run as the 4-minute clock is just tick-tock, tick-tock. And we are getting ready to watch our top 4 qualifiers. So look at that, Moto Sasaki Benjamin Hudson, Jean-William Privot, and Matthias Dandois. The biggest stories, 2017 overall winner was Jean-William Privot.
Here in this
year,
location,
Matthias Dandois has been dominant with 2 first places, so he is sitting in that top spot. Moto Sasaki is currently sitting 4th for the season, and Benjamin Hudson has been tearing it up and very respectfully sitting in 6th.
all these 4 riders have such a completely different and unique style of riding and redeveloping flatland and expressive riding in their own right. Moto Suzuki, you're gonna see, has some of the most incredible front wheel spins where his bars are nearly scraping the ground.
Yeah. Killer combos, long links is what Moto is known for. I talked about that a little earlier. There's some videos online where he's got almost 3-minute combinations out there. Let's see if he winds up taking that approach, Ryan. Definitely known to put his feet in some unique positions, even to hop on the spokes to save a link or a combo. But you talked about keeping the focus on the handlebars, dipping them down.
20 seconds left. Okay, back on it. Come on, Moto, come on. Stay focused, right? Positive, positive. 2 minutes and 10 seconds left. Yeah, buddy, right. All right.
Here we go, Moto getting in some of these incredible spins as he gets fully on the stem and his left pedal there.
Look at that foot positioning, just pressing on that bar with his foot, Ryan. That's so crazy. It's all about your body position in 2018.
As the bar drags, his bar ends are actually scraped down on an angle from doing this trick so much.
Yes, Moto. 1 minute and 25 seconds left. Okay, here we go. From it now.
So let's see, again with the handlebars, known as the Carl Cruiser right there, where you scrape the bar, as you said. He's got those big, bulky metal bar ends so that the rubber grip doesn't stop him, and that's the positioning.
Still getting each of these links.
Will stop at nothing to keep the combos coming.
I think I see a group of people in the beer garden having drinking games somehow to Flatland every time his bar scrapes, maybe.
It's always a party here at Feast, and especially in our Flatland. Oh! Moto's got time to work with, 43 seconds to be precise. Come on, Moto.
Yeah, Moto.
As we said, Moto currently sitting in 4th overall point standing. Got a very respectable 3rd place in Montpellier. Moto with 8 seconds to go. This is definitely going to be his final thought. Getting tangled up and twisted. A lot of love being shown here from Edmonton. So we've been talking about bikes the entire time. If we're going to talk about a bike, we got to talk about Moto Sasaki. He's actually riding one of his brand new bikes right here, Wagwan, where he's just not only the proprietor, but designing the geometry specifically just for him. There's that dip down we were talking about that you mentioned, Ryan, putting that foot right on the crossbar, foot on the bar, hand back of the seat, perfect style. There's a slow-mo on that Carl Cruiser scraping that bar end. Behind the seat, dipping that front end down, literally having that just finding its nook to just balance on, so he's able to take both hands off. Stepping cross-footed.
Riders to go.
Motor Suzuki.
There is a look at his own bike right there. Then zooming up to the man himself, the Japanese rider. As we said, 4th place. Would love to be in the finals. We are taking top 8. If you are Aikita or Chiquette, you are stressing because that is 7th and 8th sitting. As Sasaki's score,
Motor Suzuki.
an 80.56, it looks like his score was that came in. So he's going to sit in 5th place. That means that Chiquette and Aikita are sitting on the bubble with 3 riders to go. That means that if you are sitting in 8th, 7th, or 6th, if you are Alt, Chiquette, or Aikita, you could still get bumped out if Hudson, Privot, or Dandois get a score that is better than Alt's 80.33. So that is the score to beat right now.
You're not ready for the next one. He comes straight from Chile, Santiago.
All the way from Santiago, Chile, this is Benjamin Hudson. Next up, a very unique style as well. As you can see, the most noteworthy difference, I say, within his bike is that drop seat all the way down to the bottom of the seat tube. As you'll notice, a lot of the Flatland riders, when they're doing some of these links, will grab the back of their seat. Benjamin Hudson has developed his own style where he grabs his rear wheel.
Yeah, it's a really good part to bring up the bike. He rides for Far East Cycles. Jean-William Privot is actually the brand manager, so he put Benjamin Hudson on the team. They're both pretty much pushing the envelope for the lightest bikes out here. I believe that they're sub 18 pounds. Far East might even make a complete that you can buy. It costs you a pretty penny, but if you want to get a complete bike that is the utmost progression of lightweight bikes go, you can do that from Far East. But right now, Hudson is out there also rocking it for IGI, aka Iggy, which is Privot's part company. So they're both riding together, pushing it forward as far as the progression goes, utilizing that lightweight and the technology behind it. The Chilean rider up on that front wheel. Yes, big hop right there to the pedals. Always nice when you can put that clean highlighter saying, you know what, that's when I wanted to end and what I wanted to do.
Come on. 1 minute and 15 seconds left. Okay.
Definitely takes full advantage of that lightweight. You can see it in the way his bike spins. Very different than the bikes of the 90s and early 2000s. Some Flatland bikes could be almost pushing 30, 40 pounds. Used to have some hubs and big thick axles, but right there you see that lightweight in action, the way that he's able to actually just wrap around that head tube, smash the feet to the pedals with the wheel coming off the ground. Lightweight seems to be the name of the game. We had in our BMX park competition, Justin Dowell, another rider who's got a very lightweight bike, also components on there.
This is some new stuff. Wow.
Come on, what happened? What will happen? Yes, boy! Yeah!
He's got 30 seconds for a final thought.
30 seconds left.
Come on, Benjamin.
You must finish this one before the timeout. 20 seconds left. What is that? Come on.
Wow. Yes. Yeah, Benjamin.
Oh, foot wrapped around the handlebar right at the bend. Oh, basically had that link and just stomping the pedals the wrong way right there as the clock wounds out. But you saw that holding the tire, also the hand just wrapped around, the foot wrapped around the handlebar.
Yes, Benjamin. Crazy combinations towards the end.
So we saw what you were talking about, Ryan, holding the tire as opposed to the seat or maybe the rear peg.
He really has his own unique riding style as well. At such a young age, it's beautiful to see this. Our only competitor out here from Santiago, Chile.
Big shout out to the Chilean scene, especially in Santiago. We got Signal Park. I had a chance to go and hang with all the riders down there. With the Zarita family, Coco. A lot of respect to you in the park down there. Big BMX scene. Also the Flatlanders ripping it up. We had JMC riding in our park competition. If you're down in South America, make sure you check out Signal Park. It's in Araucano Park, one of the only independent BMX parks that are going strong in all of Chile. Shout out to Coco Zarita, one of the most celebrated vert ramp riders, crushing it these days. Right now we're seeing the Chilean rider grabbing the seat, grabbing the wheel, not grabbing the seat, and putting the handlebar right on his foot, as you were talking about.
Just gonna have to wait for those scores coming in.
So, it looks like on our screen, the score up top, an 85.66 is going to be Hudson. He's going to be notched into that third place spot, regardless of what the graphic says on the screen. It's going to be Jumelin, Gomez, Hudson, Nikolsky, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that means that, unfortunately, Aikita is out, Chiquette is on the bubble, and Alt is on the bubble, depending on Privot and Dandois.
Coming off here, this is Jean-William Privot, J-Dub as we call him, and he is your 2017 FIS World Series UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup champion. Rolling off of that win that he got for himself out here in Edmonton last year.
So the Canadian right now taken to the floor as the temperature is dropping out here. Conditions are changing, but it looks like Privot is looking to turn up the heat. Our defending champion so far this season, he's currently sitting in 5th place.
Wow. And the thing that you'll notice, sometimes a rider is on it, sometimes they're not. When he is on it here, you really notice.
Everyone in Canada right now is starting to prepare for a storm. Hurricane Privot is on its way. This man knows how to spin at speeds unlike any other rider out there. Definitely has that back wheel focus, doing it, we mentioned, for Far East Cycles, brand ambassador, also puts together their team. One of the lightest bikes out there in the game, pretty much sub 18 pounds. Also has his own company, Iggy, where he sponsors other riders. We mentioned being Benjamin Hudson.
Gets into some very fast spins here.
Also has Alberto Moya on the team. You can see we're getting close to that storm coming our way. Privot had an enormous 2017 season. Won a Nora Cup, Flat Arc, which is one of the biggest independent flatland contests in the world, and also was our World Cup champion. There's that back wheel focus. Looking to make his home country of Canada proud, stepping through such a unique angle. You can see Privot really working his height to his advantage. He's got those long limbs that he can manipulate the bike around. Most other riders can't get into those positions. Enables him to step over the head tube like that. Privot is such an interesting person. Spent a lot of time overseas in Asia. riding, learning the languages, also building the contacts to make his own company happen. So hands-on. International rider, and you can see the international style as he's in his home country of Canada. And here we go, the eye of the storm. Up on that back wheel.
Yeah, J-Dub.
Much respect to the Canadian, Jean-William Prévost. A lot of props out there. As we mentioned, 16 riders is our semifinal. That means 8 are going to move on. The score that Prévost is looking for, 80.33 or higher. Dustin Alt and Rafael Shiki are sitting in 7th and 8th respectively. So if you are either of those riders, you're biting your nails. You can see in the background there, rocking that white Red Bull hat and Vans windbreaker is Matthias Dandois, who has yet to ride. He was our top qualifier. He is actually going to take to the course and start warming things up as we are still watching these highlights. Big shout out, a lot of love to all of our riders around the world. It's not just Flatlanders tuning in. We got one of the most talented ramp builders, Ryan Corrigan, who is watching from Austin, Texas, cheering on all of our riders. I know that he wants to see Matthias Dandois do well because Matthias has spent some time down in Austin. A lot of love to our Flatland scene riding the garage in ATX. Flat is truly global. And we are bringing it round the world here with our UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup Flatland competitions.
It is a mouthful, isn't it?
Really is. It's a tongue twister, but I just think about how difficult it would even be to get on the course and even last place, right? Even if you or I went out here, we're lifetime riders.
I'm still trying to figure out how to get a bike. Claude, thank you for trying to help me out on that one. I'm still working on it. Haven't yet been back home to try and figure out how to get a bike going, but I want to. Hey, scores coming in. Jean-William Prévost, second place there with an 89 even. That means we're moving down to our last rider of the day. This is the semifinals out here in Edmonton, and it's going to be none other than the famous Paris connection, Matthias Dandois.
Famous is right. Matthias is gracing billboards all over Europe. He just starred in a film called MILF. He's not only a superstar on his bike, but also on the silver screen. He lives such a unique, wild life. If you follow him on Instagram, you can see he wins competitions all over the world and then will be whisked from the finishing party straight into film festivals. And look at this, showing you why he's a superstar. Even with all the pressures that Matthias has had, he has been really pushing his riding within the last year, developing some new tricks. Remember last year in Edmonton, we had the opportunity to hang out for a little bit, and he was telling me about the film he was working on, and seeing one a year later, what a whirlwind this superstar has had. It's so crazy to just see his passion for Flatland shining above and through all of his other responsibilities he has. Matthias is a rider through and through.
I love watching these guys ride. Matthias as well has such an incredible energy. Really knows how to get the crowd entirely on their feet, all of them.
Matthias learned to ride in his backyard. Like I just mentioned, Alex Jumelin was definitely a mentor to him. His father built him his own Flatland space, which was a small deck in his backyard, and he focused on spinning tricks in a small space like this we're seeing going up and over the head tube. A lot of riders will be show riders where they'll do shows on a consistent basis. That's how they supplement an income, and that's how they spread riding. But I got to tell you, Matthias is a natural showman. He doesn't necessarily ride on a show circuit, but he connects with the crowd like no other so naturally. Always a crowd favorite, winning over their hearts. Come on, Matthias. Look at that foot on the pedal. Had to have the cranks in a unique position ahead of time to set up. You see, he reached down and spun his pedal around. It might be for another trick or a combo. Matthias, big gamble right there. Hop in, and yes! Matthias is so explosive and has so much control. Our judges are meticulous.
Into the new spin, and the hands are off.
Oh, Matthias, come on. You're killing us over here. Look at the consistency. Matthias has 25 seconds. That is enough for another thought. Matthias riding his own signature frame on Haro bikes, the Baguette. Look at that, up on the seat tube, not even the top tube. Hand is off, leg is swinging around. Oh, big finish right there for Dandois. Getting the love from the crowd, well deserved.
Matthias Dandois, always so exciting to watch.
You can see the intensity and focus from Matthias. He came, he delivered. Now it's going to be up to our judges, who are meticulous purveyors of Flatland authority. They've got the master, the mastery, and they know which scores are going to be in the fate of Matthias as we look at one of the riders who has so much control of floor space, more so than potentially any other rider out there this season. That's why he's got 2 firsts, one in Hiroshima, one in Montpellier. He was our top qualifier, and maybe in the semi, he might be our top finisher today. Only time will tell as our score is waiting to come in. If you were sitting in 8th place and your name was Dustin Alt, you right now are heavily stressing, because the score to beat is an 80.33. And I gotta tell you, we're not the judge, but Matthias was super consistent out there, Ryan.
How could you not say that that was one of the most exciting runs of the evening?
Look at that back wheel, not even touching the deck right there. So close, and there's the foot on the seat tube, a little bit on the top tube, but just manipulating in such a weird position in order to get the bike twisted. You can see Matthias is psyched, delivering it when it counts, and there you go. The score to beat is a 90.16. Dandois coming in just behind Jumelin, the teacher and student up there. Big brother, little brother. The apprentice, Matthias Dandois, is going to have to sit in 2nd place in our semi as Jumelin rocking that top score at the 90.16. You can see right there, Jumelin going down, getting some love and support from his family, also from our founder, Hervé André Benoit. There's the style, man. DJ's hitting the tunes. It might turn into another dance party. We will see. Oh, there we go, breaking out the fancy footwork for Jumelin. So let's take a look.
Full page of standings on top. Alex Jumelin on top right there with the 90.16, the only athlete to push through into the 90s. Nipping at his heels, the young protege, Matthias Dandois in 2nd place, and Jean-William Prévost, the French-Canadian, in 3rd place there. Vicky Gomez 4th, Benjamin Hudson 5th, Kevin Nikolsky 6th, Ishizaki in 7th, Moto Suzuki in 8th. And moving over into our next page, 9th place is Dustin Alt, Rafael Shiki, Takehiro Takumi, Joel Bondu, Dan Hennig, Alberto Moya, and Tyler Gillard. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. That was, of course, the semifinals for the UCI BMX Freestyle World Cup Flatland contest. On behalf of myself, Ryan Meyer, Daryl Now, and everyone else out here at the feast, thank you so much for tuning in, and stay tuned for tomorrow's events. We're going to have all the finals coming your way. Stay tuned, check us out online, and thanks again.
Yes, y'all. Yes, y'all. Yes, 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 y'all. Yes, yes, y'all. Woo! Start the party, celebrate. I'm sick of nonsense. I wanna elevate from that familiar feeling. Pick up my